Hello, listeners of the future. Welcome back, rollers, to another episode of Classin' Up the Joint. I am your host, Colin. I use they and he pronouns, and I am so delighted to be joined by another wonderful guest. We had a wonderful time meeting at Big Bad Con. Y'all should go next year. It's going to be great. And I am so excited to dive into things, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Fantastic guest. Welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Brooke Whitney. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the community manager at Roll20. I'm really excited to be here. Big Bad Con was an absolute blast, and I'm seconding that everybody should go next year. And it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited. Where I've been starting off with a lot of people, and I think I want to ask you this as well, like what game, if it wasn't D&D, grabbed you, and how did your journey in role-playing games and tabletop games start?
Ooh, that's a great question. Interestingly enough, my first foray into role-playing was on forums, like doing play-by-post sort of written, way back in like the wizarding sort of like days. And so that is when I first got into role-playing with others. And of course, D&D 5th edition was my first actual time playing with a group on Roll20. Full circle moment there.
Love that.
And it really is it's such a fun experience. It's such a great way to build relationships. There were people I got a lot closer to within my friend group through playing D&D. And I just love being able to gather around and just pretend for a little bit that we're all heroes adventuring and having a great time. So for me, it's all about the laughs and, the goofy moments and also epic combat.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the things that happen within a game, not exclusively D&D, but any game where you're like, I'm going to roll a dice and see if the thing happens, and the dice will tell that story, and you get these ridiculous out of context moments that will never ever happen in any other setting. Yeah,
exactly. And honestly, when anyone first starts, I feel like you're not really playing by any rules. Like you're calling it D&D, but you're just making everything up as you go along. That's it's a feeling you can't capture easily as you get more experienced in tabletop games. It's definitely something to be cherished.
I like it a little. You get just a taste when you're like, oh, I've been playing this one system for a long time, and suddenly my friend is running this game over here in this totally other universe, and I'm gonna go, I don't know, can I do this really dumb idea? And they're like, absolutely. Never thought of that.
Yes. Yeah. When new players join a game, you can see how much creativity they have. Like they're not restricted by any rules. They're just like, I want to do this and that. And it's so cool to see. I love that. Yeah,
it's great. I'm running some games for teens right now, and it is, even the ones that the neurospiciest who have just memorized the entire player handbook, know every rule inside and out, working on memorizing the new rules, they're still just like, can I do this utterly bonkers thing? And roll roll whatever check for it, but why not?
Yep.
The creativity is always so inspiring. For people that might not know what it is, which I imagine is few, but before we get into your role at Roll20, what is Roll20? What is the short version of Roll20's services, or I don't even know what the word is, but what is
That's
it?
a great question. It is a great question. Roll20 is a virtual tabletop allowing you to connect with friends all around the world to play not just D&D, but thousands of game systems. So you can play Pathfinder, your Call of Cthulhu, and even if you want to go all the way back, D&D 1st edition, we do have a character sheet for that. Yes.
Wow.
So it's an online play space where you can upload your maps and your minis, and you can roll dice, and it streamlines everything for the GM to simulate what it's like to be around a table playing with your friends. But maybe your friends are far away, like all of mine are.
I would imagine it was a very, very handy tool to have for many people around April 2020.
Yes. A huge influx of people. From what I didn't work at Roll20 at the time, but from what I've heard from folks who were, they were like, we were working all day long trying to maintain the servers because there were so many people signing up for Roll20 and playing games at that time. And it's just great that Roll20 could be a platform that was there, still continuing to connect people when they couldn't leave the house, even if they normally had an IRL game.
Absolutely. Oh man. I mean, the return of IRL games was like a real balm for the soul, as they say. but yeah, I virtual ones kept us going for that time.
Yes.
How did you start working for Roll20?
Yeah, this is such a winding journey. I actually started off joining the Storytelling Collective, which is a program where people can write their first adventure. And by doing that, I actually joined the Drive-Thru RPG partner server, where they had posted a job listing for a partner relations representative. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I was just looking to switch careers. And so I was like, maybe I'll just shoot my shot and go for it. And so I applied for that publisher relations role and ended up working under the Drive-Thru RPG umbrella, as Drive-Thru RPG and Roll20 are one company now. Which was odd because I had never really used or heard of Drive-Thru RPG before applying. I was like, Roll20, nice. And they were like, actually, Drive-Thru. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool too. Yeah, but I got to completely fall in love with Drive-Thru and the team. So I'm really grateful for that experience. While I was working as a publisher rep, which is basically like customer service, but for our publishers, I started to bug our team because we didn't have a TikTok for Drive-Thru RPG. Roll20 did, but Drive-Thru didn't. And I was like, what if we did a TikTok? Wouldn't that be so much fun? And it took me a while to convince my manager to let me create an account. But once I did, I just started creating videos. It was a bunch of fun. And once my videos started to do really well, people at the company took interest. And when our previous community manager left, I was offered the role of community manager. They were like, we love what you're doing already on our TikTok channels. And so why not do all of it? And I was like, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a bit of an unorthodox journey, but I think it just goes to show, whatever role that you're working in, there's always opportunities that might land in your lap.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this because I'm like, there's a lot of community managers in various aspects of professional realms. What is your role and responsibilities as a community manager? Because in what you just said, I would say like social media manager is a component of it. And sometimes that role is like split off into its own, is like just running all the socials accounts. But it sounds like you have that and several other things on your plate.
Yeah, that is also a question I grapple with because every time I talk to a community manager from a different company, they also do different things. So I don't think you'll ever find two community managers who have the same job role. It's crazy. So for what I do, I cover all of our social media platforms. So that's scheduling on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. I also create all of our short form content for Reels and TikTok. And I do influencer management. So anytime we work with sponsoring influencers and creators, I'm on that front as well. And I do have a hand in helping with some of our publisher relationships. I work with R. Talsorian and Magpie Games. And so that's just sort of a holdover from my previous role as a publisher relations. And I was like, I love these people. I want to keep working with them. So they were kind enough to let me do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Have you talked to a community manager that you're like, that is so not my job description and so opposite what I think that my job should be?
I have, yes. And
without naming any names, it's fine. I'm just like, who said something like, oh, I interface with every single one of our customers directly. And you're like, that's not your job.
I definitely have. And that's one thing from being at GameholeCon and Big Bad Con. I get to talk to community managers from other role-playing game companies. And I'm always like, so what is your day-to-day like? And they'll just describe something to me that's completely different from what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay.
Cool.
I see. Awesome stuff.
Glad I'm not doing
stuff.
That. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, you've also done a fair amount of writing freelance D&D content and other things as well. Do you still have time to do that? And maybe the follow-up question is like, do you still enjoy doing that? Or maybe that's the first question.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that through the Storytelling Collective, I was able to meet other awesome creators who have continued to introduce me to new opportunities. So Lila Fujiwara is one of those people. She has created the Jukebox, the karaoke role-playing game, and is the project manager of the Cosmere RPG. And so through the Storytelling Collective, we were able to connect. And so she's offered me the opportunity to work on Jukebox. I wrote a little scenario for that, and also offered to work on the Cosmere RPG too, which I think by the time this episode airs, that will be available as a PDF.
It should be.
Yes!
I hope so. Awesome. That's so cool.
Yes. Yeah. And so I do enjoy writing. I think it's something that has taken a bit of a back seat ever since I took on the community manager role, just because this is so creatively taxing in a way that my previous role wasn't.
Yeah.
But I do love writing and I love GMing. So being able to turn those fantastical ideas into something other GMs can run is really rewarding, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like that transition kind of from having more time for freelance writing and creative content that's directed in that area to social media content. And I mean, I guess I want to say kind of moving from freelance to corporate, only in the sense that you have like an employer now. It sounds like that transition has been a good one, and that you're excited about it, and it wasn't inordinately stressful. I don't know.
Yeah, the good thing about it is that my corporate job, I guess, also ties into the tabletop industry in a way that makes me feel like the creative expression that I have in our social media is also tied to something I love. And, you know, I'm not just making, you know, videos about real estate or something that bores me. It's like,
totally.
These are role-playing games. I love them, super passionate about them. So I'm happy to bring those ideas to life in videos, and in a little bit of a different way than writing would, since people aren't running games from my social media posts, but they might be helped by some tutorials and tips and tricks that I post about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially some of the did like a very sort of cursory search through, like, but it seems like there is a, you know, significant percentage of them are very specific tools and tricks within Roll20's interface for DMs or for players.
Yes. That's something I wanted to bring to the forefront more, because as a Roll20 GM myself, there are so many features I wasn't even using on our platform. And I'm thinking, if I work at this company and I don't even know about these things, how would any user know about these things? Yeah. And so anytime I find a cool piece like that, I'm like, okay, I need to talk about this so other people know, because, you know, it can be hard to find. There's so many features and functions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, there is the kind of person who will acquire a new product, say sign up for Roll20, and then do a really immediate and thorough and deep dive into all of the functionality of it. And I'm the idiot going, yeah, I signed up for it, and I'm just going to like start doing stuff and see how it goes. And like, we'll have no idea there's a whole bunch of other features that are just waiting for me to discover.
Yeah, and they're easier to use than people might think. I was always held back by thinking like, oh, that's really complicated. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to figure it out. When you simplify it and make it easy and bite-sized for people, it's easier for them to implement in their own games. And it's just tiny little ways you can make your game just a little bit more fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I'm looking also at some of the questions that we've like gone back and forth about, and going like, but they're all so good, and I want all of them. And they don't. I thought I'd managed to like kind of transition them well, and I don't know. We'll see. But I want to ask, like, is there something that you think Roll20 users or you know the tabletop industry and community, is there something you wish they understood about the nature of being a community manager? It's like, do you feel the same idiot question all the time that you're like, no, that's not my job, or, you know?
Yeah, I wish I could tell users just how much I want to see all of the awesome features that they're requesting too. I get a lot of comments on social media that are like, oh, but I wish we could do this and that. And I'm like, me too. Yeah. But I am just, you know, sort of the mouthpiece. Like, I can tell the development team, you know, these are some things that users are requesting. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to prioritize that right away and start, you know, shift their entire workflow to address this. But it is good to hear from users, and that's definitely something that we use in order to steer the direction of our development. I think one thing not many people know about is the suggestions and ideas forum that Roll20 has, and you can go in and vote for things that you really want to see on the platform. And so they've taken the most like upvoted ones, and they've already, accomplished a lot of those. So I think it's a great way to make sure your voice is heard, and that's something that's really important to the Roll20 team.
Yeah, absolutely. Tangential question, and one that I did not prepare you for, but I'm curious in this moment, as the person who interacts with I'm going to say the fan base and your community a lot. Does that mean you also feel the like, God damn it, why did you take this functionality away? Or like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you corporate bastard comments occasionally? And like, I would imagine that is one of the more difficult aspects of the job, if that is in fact true.
Yes, all the time. It depends on the platform. Some platforms are a bit more friendly than other platforms. With TikTok especially, a lot of people will comment, but Foundry's better. I like Foundry better. And I'm like, that's great. Like, we are so happy that you love Foundry. I'm Roll20 and I can't do anything about that.
Cool. You want me to do something here? Like, yeah.
But like, I'm just a person working on this TikTok. So that's a comment I receive all the time. And it is hard with the launch of D&D 2024 and all of our tools, which I think we'll get into a little bit. It was a bit of a rocky road, and the backlash that I received, like, people just commenting vitriol about how upset they were that the changes were made. And that was definitely tough because I can't do anything about the complaints that they're making. Like, I can't go in the code and change everything around. So I'm just like, all I can do is tell the team that you aren't happy about this. And I think what we've learned as Roll20 is that being transparent and really open and honest with the community is the most important thing. They're okay with us, saying that we made a mistake, but they want to hear that we made a mistake and not just, oh, this is all, just like we planned. Yeah, and here it is, so just owning up to launches where we didn't necessarily land at 100% is really important and something we've learned. And I do deal with a lot of the backlash comments, and I'm just like, I'm just a person.
I know. I think it is always very difficult when you are imagining the faceless maybe corporate entity behind whatever decision has made you upset. And there is in fact a human on the other side of that social media account.
I definitely have a lot more grace when it comes to being upset at companies now. I used to be really into video games. So of course was one of the people who's like, this game, why did you make this change? I wouldn't type that to a person, but I would definitely be verbalizing or just talking to my community. Now I'm like, there's probably a reason that they did this. I understand. I'm not mad about it anymore.
You can never make everybody happy all the time. You do that you end up you end up with like Disney World, except also everything is made out of ice cream. I don't like something completely illogical and practical. And then whoever is allergic to dairy would be upset. But to speak to something that you just said, like what is the rollout of D&D 24 look behind the scenes on Roll20? Like that is a very broad question, and I'm not sure immediately how to narrow it, but like, can you talk a little bit about what the process was like as the changes were announced and as Roll20 is trying to implement a new rule set onto the virtual tabletop?
Yes. So for the longest time, the team has wanted to completely overhaul what the code is that the VTT was built on, and also the character sheet. So the D&D 2014 character sheet is over 10 years old at this point and is held together, just by a couple clothespins. It's extremely difficult to work with. And so I think one goal the team always had was to rebuild the sheet from scratch and create something completely new that we can move forward with from 2024 onwards. And so the revamp of the 2024 rules was the perfect time to do that. I'm not too tuned into the developer side of things, but what I do know is that we had a huge roadmap for this launch, and we rolled out an alpha in June of this year, actually.
Nice.
So people could go in, select one of our pre-made character sheets, start rolling and poking around. We wanted to see what bugs people would find, what things about the design they liked and didn't like. And then at the end of July, we rolled out a beta version. So basically from, summer of this year, we already were giving people access to the 2024 character sheet as it would look. And for those who aren't sure, of the context of this, for D&D 2024, Roll20 launched a brand new character sheet, a brand new character builder, and a new compendium, which is our digital rulebook system. For 2024. They're all compatible with 2014 rules. So even if you want to keep playing the 5e you've been playing for all these years, you can do so with the 2024 sheets. But it was definitely a long process to get here. And the launch was definitely rocky, which I would love to talk about as well, navigating that as a community manager.
That is, yes, please.
The launch, we had been hyping this up since June, saying like, you can join the alpha, you can join the beta, give us your feedback. And the day before launch, the developer team basically came to us and said, unfortunately, due to a bug, the day 2024 comes out, we won't be able to have level up in the character builder. Yes. Okay. And as you can imagine, the community was not happy. We were telling them it would be a completed sheet. Everything would be ready to go, not in beta anymore. And when it launched, a lot of people were like, well, how could this be out of beta if there's no level up functionality? And so as a user myself, I understood their frustrations, and that was hard to toe the line between like, these things happen. Like, it is a tech company. We're working with software that's unpredictable. We wanted to meet the deadline, but we didn't. And so I created this huge spreadsheet with the marketing team to basically log everybody's like bug reports and the feature requests so that as things were fixed, I could specifically return to that post and say, hey, this is fixed now. And that was one way that we wanted to let people know, like, we're working on this actively, because at launch, this wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. But in the weeks after that, the team made such huge improvements to the products that I think that now it's in a completely playable place and something that a lot of users can enjoy.
Yeah. I'd like to imagine that those people feel very taken care of when your individual comment is addressed. Even it might take a week or two, but you're like, hey, this exact thing, we have done the thing and it should now work. Please let us know if it doesn't. I don't know if you have data we're tracking it, but did you get that kind of response? So like once the things got fixed, were the same people that had offered feedback and criticism going like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yes. From the first week of the character builder being released, we had so many people coming into Discord saying, this is broken. And, why doesn't this functionality work? It worked on the old character sheet. And since then, we have received probably like one a week. I think in that first week of launch, we were seeing over 50. And of course, it was a big launch. And so people are just excited about it in general. Maybe people aren't poking around as much as they were back then. But I do want to say that the developer, our Sheets team specifically, has put in so much work into improving the product and listening to all of the feedback they received and prioritizing what functions that users specifically really wanted to see and making sure that those were present in the sheet.
Yeah. When I feel like that and the idea of kind of tearing apart the thing and rebuilding from scratch speaks very highly of the people that work at Roll20 and like wanting to put a really good product forward. Because I was like the analogy, it's like my geometry teacher, right? You're trying to draw a straight line and a parallel line next to it. And if it's like a tiny fraction of an inch off, like when you start, by the time you get to the end of the line, it's like 4 inches and you can see it. And the same way, imagine like the code for these sheets, like it started as here's this little kernel, and then we have to keep building new little fixes and bugs. And then eventually like, wait, that kernel is now this horrible, kludged together chimera monster. And we should really just like peacefully shuffle it off the mortal coil and go back to the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And there are still users who love and will always love that 2014 character sheet, which is great. It's not going anywhere. It's just that there is so much more the team can do with this 2024 version. And so I'm really excited and optimistic about what the future holds in terms of the capabilities Roll20 will have for people using the sheet.
Totally. How has like the Roll20 community been receiving the new 2024 rules? I know the kind of general wider vague ether of the RPG community is like, man, this sucks. I'm annoyed. Why can't we just keep doing the thing? And you made Rangers even worse somehow. And we're doing some deep dives into the character classes on the show. But like, what have you seen be the response from the Roll20 community?
I have surprisingly, so I'll put out a question on X or Blue Sky and say, you know, what are you most excited about for the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide? And all the comments will be, I'm not buying it. I'm not playing it. But on the other hand, I get a ton of people who are like, we want to change over, you know, to the 2024 rules. Like, is the character sheet working yet? And so it is sort of like a balance. Like, there are people who are definitely on the camp of, I will never play the 2024 rules, which is totally valid. And there are also people who are like, how can I start using this new character sheet? Can I just switch over my previous character? Is there any way to just automatically convert it? So it's been honestly a pretty mixed bag, but I've seen a lot of people interested in the 2024 rules.
Naysayers might just be louder / posting a little bit more. I would also find it very brave that you continue to dive into the cesspool formerly known as Twitter. I can only assume that's one of the meanest groups of people that you interact with.
Yeah, I continue to try to make the case that Blue Sky should be our only platform in that format, but we're still making the case for that.
It's, I mean, I guess if we want to speak to that for a moment, like, I feel like we're in this very weird, difficult time for people with jobs like yours where, like, you know, without diving too far into the politics of it, like X is, has kind of hemorrhaged user base and has become a little more concentrated on a very specific set of people. And there's the flood going to Blue Sky and Threads and the other things and the other things. And Mastodon is still a thing, I think. And wow, I don't know that I have an actual question beyond, like, it's definitely impacted me, and I'm curious about the impact on your job and on Roll20.
Yeah, we had started up our Blue Sky a lot earlier in the year. And when I took over, that wasn't one of the immediate platforms that I was given responsibility over. But our drive-through marketing manager was like, yeah, actually, I've been posting to the Blue Sky this whole time. I just take whatever you post on X and I post on Blue Sky. I'm like, you're the best. And we actually saw our numbers on Blue Sky double, almost triple in the last month. And so that's definitely been a platform I've been able to make the case for more and saying, look how much engagement we get over here. Whereas on X, despite having such a large follower base, we don't get much engagement with the content that we're posting. And so it's definitely like the big follower number is nice to see, but how many people are actually seeing what we are posting? How many people are liking and commenting on them? That's more important, I think, than just having a big follower number.
I mean, I would agree. I think my untrained, uneducated sense is like the large number might mean your post gets like popped to a, you know, top of people's feeds or whatever. But if no one's doing anything with it, like, how long is that a sustainable thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you cracked Blue Sky's algorithm yet? Is there the automatic hashtag to make everyone see the post?
I think Blue Sky is pretty unknown territory for almost everyone. I've been looking for, like, you know, top strategies for Blue Sky. There's just nothing out there yet. So it's kind of like the Wild West a bit. I will definitely be continuing to post, you know, tutorials and see what's doing the best. And so it's just, I think it's going to be a learning curve for everybody who's now getting onto Blue Sky. We're all like, what are we doing here? Let's figure it out together.
We're figuring around. We're like finding our lists of things to subscribe to and whatever. And like, I mean, that I just really appreciate. Packs. Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, I guess that I'm gonna try to piggyback on that in slightly ways that Roll20 has like a pretty significant and large and engaged community. And is it like what I had written is like, what does building and managing something of that size look like? And I think that's still kind of the question, but like it is. Yeah. How difficult is it? What does it look like to build and maintain that community? And is that fun?
We actually launched our own community Discord server. So for the longest time, Roll20 did not have its unique Discord server, and now we do. So a lot of that, the community outreach that I've been trying to do is launching that Discord so that people can have direct access to me and the devs, and also being able to have, you know, quicker response times than just like sending in a ticket to the help center. Our customer support team is amazing, but has such a huge volume that if I can answer a simple, quick question in Discord, or if one of another user in our Discord can answer, like that's definitely the better way to go. And the Roll20 community spans like completely brand new GMs to people who are probably more advanced in GMing and Roll20 than I am even. And it's been nice to see how much the Roll20 community supports itself. We have a sort of role called the Forum Champions, and those are our power users who know everything about Roll20. And so they're in the Discord, they're in our forums, and so the community helps itself in that way, which is really nice for me because I learn something new from them every day that I'm in there. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you could do this. This is amazing.
These are the people that maybe did that like immediate deep dive and clicked every single button and like watched the tutorial, read them in. Yeah. It's like I used to read user manuals more, but now I'm like, they're full of legal bullshit that I don't understand and seems to have no relevance and does not provide instruction.
Yeah. And even if you had seen, the help documentation, it still might not make any sense. I still don't even understand macros to this day. But managing a community of this size is really nice when you have users who love the product as much as you do and they want to see other people succeed in GMing as well. Yeah. And I think just facilitating that and being able to be in more places and foster that conversation, being really transparent with users and showing that there are open lines of communication is the number one thing for us.
Yeah. Do you think that is going to be sustainable as presumably and hopefully the community keeps growing, right? You've had I think if I looked, like almost doubled the user base in the last 4 years as more and more people are doing virtual tabletops. And sometimes that the personal response and the ability to really interface with your community and your customers is only possible at like a very small scale. So do you, I would imagine is both part of your job to help the community grow. And do you think that the same kind of personal touch will be possible as Roll20 keeps growing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hope so. And the good thing about it is that some of my job is offloaded, like I said, by those forum champions and people who are willing to step in and answer those questions. Because that is still a personal touch from someone who is really involved with Roll20. They're in our company Slack. We have a channel for them where they can go in and make reports and ask questions. And so we have that direct line of communication with them as well. And so I think we're planning on revamping this program for forum champions to open it up again. It's been a really long time since we've looked for new people to join, and getting more diverse voices in our Forum Champions program is really important. And that I think will make people feel even more welcomed and they can see like, hey, this is the space for me too, even though maybe I'm new or maybe I'm intimidating by all of this. Someone like me is doing this and is really good at it. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. I want to shift and ask you kind of a more macro question. And that is how do you see Roll20's role in relation to Wizards of the Coast? And I think where I'm going with that is like, it seems like there was, if not actual partnership going on with the rollout of the new 2024 rules, that responsivity, I guess. And so I think maybe the simpler way is like speaking a little bit to if there is a relationship between those two and how that works.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Wizards of the Coast is that they are one of our closest publisher partners, but also kind of competition to us with D&D Beyond. And so it's always interesting to toe that line between like, we do work with them. They license us to be able to sell their books, and they also get a percentage of the profit that, Roll20 D&D books make. And so in that way, we are collaborating. And then, they have a new VTT that's coming out. And so in other ways, we're like, how does Roll20 have the upper hand in the VTT space when it comes to D&D Beyond? So I think that Roll20 and all virtual tabletops will be important to Wizards of the Coast because we are the branch that sort of allows people to play D&D all over the world online. People can always buy their books. And of course, I have a huge bookshelf here myself of all of the role-playing games that I love. But if you want to be able to access that content online, maybe you're busy and you don't have time to, head over to one house, or your friends are all over the world. That's where all virtual tabletop platforms come into play with D&D. So I think that Wizards will always have a relationship with VTTs because it's really the best way to get people involved in the sort of hobby, especially with Baldur's Gate and the D&D movie. People who have never heard of D&D before are like, how do I play this online? Right? And so it's like, Roll20 is here. We're here for that.
Well, and I mean, I have my friend is running a game, and we're playing all together, and he's just gotten like the giant flat screen TV on the coffee table with the VTT up while we're playing there. There was, I will mention this because I was like, this is a cool thing that I still don't know the company or what's happening. He got they're like little IR sensitive bases for minis designed so you can like put your mini on the TV, and then little sensor up here will track it, you moving it around the thing, and that also move your token in the VTT. It wasn't working quite well yet. The prototype version 1 of the hardware was like, oh, the sensors are like kind of in weird, awkward places. But anyway, super cool. Little tangent.
No, it speaks to the future of how digital tools can assist games like tabletop role-playing games. I think that with Roll20, it is really low barrier to entry. It's right in your browser. It's free to start playing. If you want to go even deeper into the tools, you can subscribe, but I think you could run hundreds of really fun games without needing to.
Yeah.
And so, just the low barrier to entry makes it a great place to start. And also you can implement it into your in-person games with, we created Roll20 characters so that people don't have to go into the VTT in order to create a character. And so you could just pull that up on your phone while you're playing in person. It is really difficult, I think, for people to build characters from scratch without the help of a character builder. And so that's why we have these tools so that people can do that on the go.
As someone who has been doing this for the last week and a half with brand new players in library branches and stuff, it is, if you've just got player's handbook and some blank paper sheets, it is hard. It is real hard. Hello, rollers. It is I, your host, debatably friendly DM, and other things, Colin, here to welcome you to the mid-roll. Thank you for listening, and we hope you are enjoying this episode so far. This is your periodic interruption, brief as it may be, to remind you that the Roll Report is on many social media platforms. You can find us around the interwebs at The Roll Report Cast, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Blue Sky. We don't do the other thing. We don't talk about the artist formerly known as Twitter. But you can follow us there for news and announcements, special clips from the interviews you may not have seen, and learn about who we're going to interview next. Because if you are very intrigued and curious about upcoming interview guests, if you head on over to patreon.com/The Roll Report and give us a single $1, you can submit questions for our interviews, and only you and only our other supporters on Patreon will hear the answers. That's right, special Patreon-only Q&As with interview guests if you support us there and if you send us questions. Thank you so much for listening. Back to the show. Enjoy! I feel like we would be remiss to not talk about the Discord integration that rolled out for Roll20 this year. And I have seen it very little, but I wonder if there is an elevator pitch, if you want to give it, or just talk about how kind of the reception and the launch of that went as well.
Oh, yes.
And if there's a really, really cool feature that specific thing had that you're really excited about.
Yeah, the Discord activity integration was definitely one of our biggest launches of the year, which is wild to say because D&D 2024 came out this year. But Discord activity, I think, is just as big. Yes. It is a way to play Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game within Discord without leaving that platform. So you can join a call or a text channel, open up the Roll20 Discord activity, and your tabletop is right there. So convenient if you only have one monitor, or, you just want to save on space, be able to see your friend's voice and video at the same time as playing in Roll20. It is so simple. You just click one button and you're in. You can see all of your games, access all of your subscriber features, all of your assets. They're all there. It is really, really cool. And they've made a ton of improvements to the Discord activity. They are trying to increase the screen space so that you have, even more of that virtual tabletop element to the Discord activity. And we also worked with Discord. They released a D&D one-shot for Halloween, which was really neat. And they were giving it away for free to users during Halloween. And so Discord, I think, is also really interested in the direction that D&D Online is taking. And it's been great to work with them and see their enthusiasm for the product, because I think they were blown away by how many people were using the Roll20 Discord activity. There were tons of people who used it.
Yeah. How's the community response? Has been positive? I'm going to assume and hope.
Our Discord server started as the beta test for the Discord activity.
Awesome.
So all of the people who were in it previously were beta testing. And then we were like, hey, this is going to be our community server. So if you don't want to be here, then, you're free. But they all have a special role called the Voyager role in our Discord server. So if you see anyone who's a Voyager, they were beta testing the Discord activity. It has been all great. I think the biggest request that we've had so far is for it to be available on mobile, which we don't quite have yet.
Ooh.
But so many people have been really enthusiastic about being able to play in Discord. Like, we're hanging out in Discord with our friends already. Why not just pop up the Roll20 VTT? Super accessible.
Yep. Awesome. Before moving on to the most important questions, the most important two questions, Roll20 hosts and has the ability to host and integrate many things beyond D&D.
Yes.
Is there a game or two or three that Roll20 hosts that you think deserves a little more love?
Oh, absolutely. I have had the pleasure recently to see the Dragonbane character sheet, the Vassin character sheet, and Vampire the Masquerade, which all look beautiful. They are so pretty. They are so customized to the system. They really immerse you into that game and its setting and its lore. And I think it's a shame that more people might not know about them just because they are so cool to look at. Cyberpunk Red, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Alien. We have thousands of sheets on our site that are made by the partners and publishers. Like Evil Hat does all of their own sheets, but we also have a lot of community sheet creators too. So essentially any game you might type into Roll20, you'll probably find some sheet made by someone.
Yeah.
And what I also want to bring up, I watched your most recent episode of this podcast and you had brought up Demiplane. So that is one other thing that Roll20 has merged with. We acquired Demiplane earlier this year. Yeah. So Demiplane falls under the Roll20 umbrella. And what we are working on right now is the ability to integrate Demiplane into the VTT. So you'll be able to access your Demiplane character sheets for all of these amazing game systems, especially Pathfinder 2E is a big one, and access them within the Roll20 VTT. That will be coming soon and is something we're really excited about because Demiplane is the best in class for character builders, character sheets, and digital rule books. They just make it so easy to set up your character, and read these beautiful, gorgeous rule books. I think it's going to be really exciting to see once we start to integrate these two platforms more.
Yeah, totally. Did merging with Demiplane give Roll20 access to some games that were proprietary? Like my very vague remembrance is that I think Daggerhearts and maybe the Cosmere RPG were both proprietary to Daggerheart, but that now brings them in and gives you access to those games.
Yes, and we actually, as Roll20, were interested in making a sheet for Daggerheart, but with the looming D&D release, there just weren't enough resources, which is what is awesome about the Demiplane team. They are super dedicated to non-D&D systems, and all of them are incredibly talented, and Demiplane, I believe, has released over 100 titles of content this year alone, which is amazing. Right. So they are, so efficient. They are creating amazing products, and having them in addition to the Roll20 team, I think it's just going to expand our offerings even more.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you have a favorite non-D&D game, whether it's on Roll20 or not?
I do. I want to say it is Masks, and honestly, any Powered by the Apocalypse game. I love Masks so much, especially because I love superheroes, and the teen superheroes really brings me back to like the Disney Channel days, like Sky High. So Masks is amazing. I love rules light systems like Powered by the Apocalypse. So Brindlewood Bay is another one that's really close to my heart. I will play anything PBTA. Cool. Anything.
Cool. Love that. Awesome. With that, I think the extremely, extremely important question, Brooke, what is your favorite character class?
Yeah, I had mentioned to you that I was going to think about this, and I didn't think about it, so I'm just going to go off of the top. I think my favorite character class is a bard, and it is mostly because I love what the bard represents, a charisma caster who supports their party, but is also just incredibly outrageous, just says the most unhinged things, and everybody's going along with it because, you're a bard, so it's just part of what you do.
Yeah, totally. And I want to say I feel like that's like slightly more the flavor. It is the flavor of it than like the strict mechanics of like, oh no, I really enjoy magical secrets or whatever.
Mechanically, I think my favorite class would be a fighter, just because I love seeing the big numbers go boom. And so that's why in my heart, I will always love playing a fighter. But in terms of my, what I like to role play as, Bard 100%.
Yeah. Have you made like particularly odd, weird, fun, memorable bards in your long and storied career?
I have one character that I keep bringing back. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but I have 3 characters and they have run the gamut of every class until I found their perfect class. And when I hit Bard with one of them, I was like, this is what you were meant to be. So it is more so about bringing them back and reviving them. Yeah. They've sort of become a like running gag. Like I've put them in my campaign I'm DMing and I'm like, hey, and all my players are like, oh, this guy again. So, now there's just a multiverse of my Bard character. Not super, not breaking any molds. I think they're just an eloquence Bard because that is an incredibly powerful subclass if you just like to yap, which I do.
Yeah. I think does eloquence get it's basically reliable talent, but for charisma checks, you just anything below a 9, you're like, nope, that's a 10.
Yup. And it's really just the best thing if you want to be able to talk your way out of any situation, or at least try to talk your way out. Because whether or not I succeed, I like to try. Yeah.
Is that, does that hold true kind of across other game system? Is like, and I, maybe that is a question about like your preferred play style. Like, would you rather have, at least be playing someone who gets to attempt the talking out of it rather than the person who's like, this is boring, I'm going to punch?
Yeah. For most of the other systems I've played, I've had to be the GM just because there's no other way to get my players to play the game. Fair enough. When I have had the pleasure of playing other systems, I love a charisma-based character. It is just, you can be so creative with your approach. And not to say you can't with marshals, because you definitely can. But when it comes to interacting with NPCs, there's just so many different directions those conversations can go, and I love big out of the box ideas. I'm the ideas person in the campaign where it's like, okay, we got to do something really simple, and I'm like building my Rube Goldberg machine in my head. We'll do 15 steps to do this really simple thing.
Like really simple, but what if we did it the most complicated way possible for you? It's more fun.
And it'll be fun, I promise. Exactly. So that is what I feel like the Bard really brings to D&D.
Yeah.
And other games too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to me, there's also this element, and I think I've been talking about this a little bit in the last episode or two, but that, at its core, D&D began as a combat simulator. It's most of it is designed to be in combat, and that's where all the abilities are. And bards are one of the few classes that really, it doesn't feel like their social skills don't feel like an afterthought.
Mm-hmm. And when you start to play other systems, then that's when you see, oh, there are mechanics built in for role-playing and exploration in other games. Just not in this game that I've played the most. So that's one thing I really enjoy about Masks is you can push and pull other people's stats. And so you can actually change the way that they perceive themselves and alter their own ability scores, which is really neat. And that happens just by role-playing. So I love to bring that element into my D&D games a bit and see how we can really play with the role-playing elements.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, and just going back like over, there's definitely the behind the scenes secret spreadsheet of like every answer everyone has provided, and I'm pretty sure Bard is in the lead by a significant amount at this point.
Yes, Bards rise up.
Yeah, and I feel like it's this interesting sort of microcosm of both the people that I've managed to connect to and bring on the show, and the wider community, that so many of us are like performers at heart and want to perform, and the charisma classes like generally lend themselves towards that.
Yeah, without all the complications of meta magic or, I love being a paladin too. So that was definitely high up there, but totally in my heart, Bard.
Yeah. have you also gotten to like poke into the updates or the 2024 rules for bards?
A little bit. I got to play a really fun staff game with the marketing team run by Nick Olivo, who's an amazing GM. And I got to play a bard in that. And I was actually saved by one of the rule changes. The paladin can now use their lay on hands as a bonus action. So that saved my life because we were level 1.
Nice.
And I was like, never have I been more excited about the rules changes than this moment right now. So I haven't poked into it. It is a little scary for me as a GM, just seeing which classes have really gotten like power increases, especially because I'm looking at my characters in my current campaign and I'm like, you guys are already really strong, and they kind of buffed you a little bit, except for Rangers. Sorry, Rangers.
No, it's true. It's true. We are when the Slovenly Trolls and I looked into it, we are happy with updates to bards, although acknowledging that they've maybe become overpowered kind of a lot with the updates to magical secrets. And my favorite thing is that inspiration does not rely on hearing. They have like explicitly changed it, so it's as long as someone can see or hear you, you can deliver your inspiration. I think there's like a few of these small updates and like, just the language and the way you're changing these rules is more inclusive of people that want to play a deaf character, and those exist, you know? The characters and the people. Poor Rangers though. Poor Rangers. They were already everybody's whipping boy, and now they're just worse.
I know. One of my characters is a Drake Warden Ranger, which I think is an incredibly powerful class. So any Ranger fans, stick to that one. It is. It really is. Having a cute little dragon companion. What could you not like about that?
I mean, I love the idea. I've talked to a couple people about this, but the idea that the Drake can be your inner child or your lost innocence, or like you can make that whole, you can give it its own sort of character that relates very much to your primary PC and can interact with them in fun ways.
And you don't have to worry about your heart breaking because it dies, because it's not dead. You can just recreate your spirit, which I love.
It just comes back. Yeah. So then the second most important question, what is your favorite subclass? Is it also within Bard, or is it something completely different? I
want to say for this, it is the Vengeance Paladin. There is nothing I love more than a underdog revenge story. And so the Vengeance Paladin for me fulfills that fantasy in such a complete way. It gives you more damage, I think, against your target that you've marked. And that I think is just so flavorful, and it lends into your backstory really well. So I love anything that can connect your character to your backstory.
Yeah, totally. Those are I enjoy Vengeance Paladins. I have like a very a connection from like an old character who was one of my favorites, who was an honorary barbarian because everyone forgot that she wasn't a barbarian all the time.
Which means you're playing the vengeance angle right.
I thought so, you know? I love the features that they get, I think, are so fun. And I had multi-class, so I never got to some of the higher level ones, but the expanded spell list and the Vow of Enmity are so, the flavor of them is so good, and then the mechanics give you such an interesting, fun new thing.
Yes. And I think a close runner-up would be the Champion Fighter. So all my favorite subclasses are like your really big, bombastic fighter types, melee characters. But then, my favorite class is like, I just like to talk. So that's the juxtaposition of me as a person, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. People are complex beings capable of holding more than one idea in their heads at the same time. It's, we forget that every once in a while.
At least two ideas.
At least two. My friend used to go around and have like stacks of little cards that said, they were kind of made in the style of Monopoly cards, that said, "Get out of paradox free. The bearer of this card is entitled to hold two or more conflicting opinions or ideas at the same time."
Brilliant.
It's like, yeah. Wow. I'd forgotten about. I'm going to mention these higher level Oath of Vengeance things. The Soul of Vengeance at 15th level, if you use your Vow of Enmity and so the creature makes an attack, you can immediately use your reaction to make an attack against it, just for fun. You know, it's like a nice. I feel like it's almost it's like a reflavored Sentinel feat in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
cool.
when you actually have Sentinel 2, it's even better.
Yeah. And I haven't gotten to look at 2024 Paladins. I'm so curious if they've kept the sort of the way that at 20th level, each of the oaths gives you this like the avatar transformational thing. So the Vengeance one at 20th level, you for 1 hour, it's not a minute, it's an hour. Jesus. You get a you get wings sprouting from your back and a 60-foot fly speed, and you get a 30-foot aura of menace where people have to make wisdom saves or become frightened. Wow. Yeah. And yeah, those are so cool.
For an hour. That is awesome. And I wish I could ever get to level 20 to have those features, but that is always like the elusive thing that we're all chasing. Like, I just want to be my level 20 character just once.
It's part of the reason I love doing like high level one shots.
Yeah.
Because I think they're so much fun. And you get to do that. You get to like build your most crazy level 20 theory crafted whatever. And then, I will say my wonderful, insane group of kids basically in 3 rounds completely destroyed a Tarask. Which I think speaks to both their creativity and I was like, I now see why some people were like, man, the Tarask got really nerfed from 3.5 to 5e or whatever.
Right. It has to be like a Tarask, but with all the spells of Vecna.
Ha! Wow. Wow. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. That would be amazing. So I was curious and I looked this up just for a moment. In 2024, the besides the whole debacle of Smite now being a spell, and not just a thing, which we're not even going to touch that. It does look like the 20th level things come back, and specifically Vengeance. The difference is that what's a bonus action to become your avenging angel self. It only lasts for 10 minutes. And is that the same? There's a slight modification. So both of them, typically once per long rest, but in 2024 rules, if you expend a 5th level spell slot, you can use it again.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
A little half-caster love.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That was cool. But then, the rest of the stuff is the same. It looks like the other thing, we'll dive more into this some other time, but it looks like now there is only the channel divinity has been maybe replaced or condensed into just the one thing. Okay. So the 2014 rules, you can abjure the enemy and choose a creature within 60 feet to make it possibly become frightened, or the Vow of Enmity to gain advantage on attack rolls against a creature. And the abjure enemy is just not in at least the D&D Beyond version of the Oath of Vengeance 2024 rules. But.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is that D&D 2024, in a way, is just different enough to make it a completely different experience when you're playing it.
Yeah.
And so with so many 5e variants, it is difficult for me to decide, like, when my current 2014 5e game is over, do I do 2024? Do I try Tales of the Valiant? Do I play Level Up Advanced 5e? There's so many different variants of 5th edition now. So it's like, how do you choose when there's so many awesome options?
Yeah. Or do you go completely differently and start running, a long form Powered by the Apocalypse game?
Yeah, I wish. I really wish. My players are so stuck on D&D. I'm like, but what if we were old ladies solving murder mysteries?
Here's my pitch is like, I bet they would really like Cosmere. because I think a lot of the mechanics and like a little bit of the math is very, very similar, but you've got like a whole new set of things to explore and a new world.
That is true. Yeah. And as a pretty big reader of Brandon Sanderson's novels, I am well equipped maybe to know what is going on in the world of the Cosmere.
Completely,
if I can remember any of it.
Completely off of our main topic, but my housemate today looks up at me this morning and goes, okay, the new Stormlight Archive is supposed to release tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And then he's taking 6 years off. And I was like, wait, what? Apparently that's the thing we Brandon Sanderson fans get to look forward to is 6 years while he works to integrate Stormlight Archive into the greater Cosmere.
Okay. Yeah, that
Something
makes sense to me because it's such a monstrous series and it's supposed to be 10 books total. And so, what I'm really interested in is their converting of Mistborn into an RPG as well. I think it'll be so interesting to see all of these different magic systems and how they relate to a tabletop systems. I love the power system in Mistborn. I really want to play that game.
Yeah. Oh, same. I think it was really fascinating. I mean, it's one of the things that I love about his work and kind of to wrench it back a little bit. Like, I think D&D has done kind of a similar thing and many other games that have existed long enough where the lore and the canonical settings and locations sort of grow and expand and begin intermingling to the extent that like for D&D specific, like Vecna can appear in literally anywhere you want. Many of these, like the demon lords from many of the Nine Hells can be anywhere you want. And they're the connective threads and if you use like the same pantheon, like it is all really tied together in a mesh that way. And I love that Brandon Sanderson has tried to do this. And I know there's like a whole website devoted to finding these links between the books. So that makes me want to see the Cosmere RPG where you're going to have, a listener from Stormlight Archive next to a Mistborn, like maybe next to the weird chalk magicians from that other one game.
That's my favorite book of his, The Rhythmatist. That is my favorite Brandon Sanderson book. Yeah. And he's never going to continue writing, which makes me really sad.
I mean, he is so prolific and I'm like, can you stop? Can you focus? Because I care about this thing, Yeah. Oh man. To back to the thing. I want to also. I want to take a look and see really quickly if there like what has changed on Champion as well, because I would imagine there's at least a couple.
The Champion changes are incredible. They made me so happy. I think for Roll20 I made a TikTok about the changes, but they basically just made the champion to me even more of a beast than they already were. And without knowing off the top of my head any of the details, I can just tell you I was really excited to break out my champion fighter again. I was like, this is going to make me want to get back into that campaign because I feel like it really... The changes that they made, I think the champion has never gotten much love because it's not really optimal. And as someone who has played it, I agree. It wasn't really that great at all. But the flavor of it is so fun. And I think they've given it a few boosts that it really needed.
Yeah. I mean, I think my opinion of it is colored slightly by the fact, honestly, by the memory of Hard One Surefoot. By the fact that NADPOD brought a champion fighter into their game who basically, like I'm sure there's a supercut somewhere of the number of times Jake would go, I bend the knee, my queen, And I love that was an angle, and that is an angle that you can take with this champion who's supposed to be someone's hero. But what if they just offer to be a hero for everyone they meet? What does that look like?
That is a hilarious take. For me, I love the gladiator sort of vibe of the champion. Like the look at me, I'm the one in the arena that everybody's looking at. Yeah. That to me brings a bit of charismatic flavor into the champion. You are a performer in that way. And so that is one thing that I really love about that subclass.
Yeah. Totally. I there's like one thing I want to mention, which is my continued admiration for the new art. The 2024 art for the champion is a, pretty femme-presenting fighter with actual armor. It's not a chainmail bikini.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say she like looks fucking buff in this way that I'm like, oh, you're not like, we have moved away from art just looking like, standard fantasy bullshit from the 50s. That I'd like to think we've evolved slightly since then.
Yeah, what I'm always continuously surprised by, on drive-thru, we do sell a lot of like fantasy classics and really older D&D books. And I'm always like, wow, this was really art that existed at this time. And it was published and people liked it. Interesting.
Yeah, it totally... I mean, and there, Facebook is full of, what's his name? Like Nick Dragata art and like all of the art of people, Frenzetta, I think. Just these like old sci-fi and fantasy things where you're like, that looks like that person would probably get cut in half real fast if they got a sword and, a chainmail loincloth.
Right. Yeah. It's cool to see a variety of like body types and also, types of people and gender presentation and also species. Yeah. Like I just love to see the color that they've brought to it and the variety. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, same. Okay, so I've been looking at this a little bit. It looks like there are probably some differences to fighter itself, but champion specifically, the improved crit. So you can crit on 19 or 20. It specifies unarmed strikes. In 2014, it just says your weapon attacks. So I guess it's good to specify. And then the remarkable athlete is totally different now. Interesting. Okay. It used to be that at 7th level, you add half your proficiency bonus rounded up to any strength, dexterity, or constitution check. Yes. And you can make a better long jump. And Remarkable Athlete in 2024 is at 3rd level. You have advantage on initiative rolls. Awesome. Always fun. And not any strength, athletics checks specifically. And after you score a critical hit, which you can already do on a 19 or 20, you can immediately move half to your speed without provoking an opportunity attack. That's awesome. That is a huge improvement, like right away. Just to what you're able, you can hit someone, maybe you take them out and you're like, I can walk away from you now and you can't do anything.
Yeah, and it encourages movement that makes combats more dynamic.
Yeah.
A lot of combat can turn into just we're all standing still, just whacking each other because no one wants to take an opportunity attack. And being able to move without provoking opportunity attacks, people can chase you around. It's just more fun when people are, having this sort of like back and forth in combat where everybody's just running around the battlefield. That's what a real combat would be like, I think. Yeah,
like much more chaos and like movement and things and no one politely taking turns.
Yes. And at level 10, they also get heroic inspiration at the start of every turn in combat, which lets them re-roll any die roll. So you roll a low damage dice, you can re-roll that to try to get a higher one. So I really like that. Every turn in combat, that feels so powerful. I totally
misread that. I thought that was just at the beginning of combat, but no, it is any turn.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, man, I need to play my level 11 champion fighter.
Right?
She would really have a glow up at this moment.
Oh my God, such a glow up. So that has shifted the additional fighting style. Additional fighting style is now at 7th level, where Remarkable Athlete was. Heroic Warriors in there. And then it looks like, superior critical is the same. You crits now on 18, 19, or 20 at level 15.
Love that.
That is the same. I love that is like, it's kind of the primary move for the champion is like, I just have a bigger range of higher percentage of critting. And well, now you're like, you can give yourself advantage on an attack every turn if you keep awarding yourself inspiration. Like, Jesus. And then the 18th level
just makes it even more fun.
Yeah. Find a good wizard or someone who can cast haste on you. Actually, one of my favorite things about the Vengeance Paladin is that they get haste.
Right.
Super fun.
Yes.
Super fun. My massive Goliath with haste and I think I'd done an 11-9 Paladin to Battlemaster fighter. So she wades in, gets 3 attacks, each one automatically smites with improved Divine Smite, can action surge, This is why everyone was like, you're
Amazing.
you're a barbarian, right? She's a barbarian. I'm like, no, but I appreciate that you thought that.
I've created kind of a concoction that makes you think I'm a barbarian because this is out of control.
Yeah. And then, okay. So 18th level survivor, I think is the same. It's just formatted better. At the start of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your constitution. Okay. So it's language things. In 2014, it says you regain 5 plus your con modifier hit points if you have no more than half your hit points left. And I think that specified now, that is a condition, that is the bloodied condition. So it is just simpler to say, if you are bloodied and have at least 1 hit point, you'll regain. Okay. And advantage on death saving throws. Oh, that's new. Okay. Now you get advantage on death saves. And if you roll 18, 19, or 20 on a death save, it functions like rolling a 20, which I think most of us now are like, that pops you up with 1 HP.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Neat. I think that's neat. It's a bit of a parallel to them doing damage. You know, they do more damage, but they're also harder to get down and stay down, which I love.
Well, this makes me so excited to like look more at Fighter, which I will be doing sometime soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, there were some great changes to the Fighter class, which I was happy to see as someone who loves fighters.
Yeah.
It is, I think even the Eldritch Knight, they don't have any School of Magic restrictions. They used to be only like abjuration spells. So it's just cool. Like now you can customize your character a little bit more. And
I'm displeased about some of the mechanics, but there's a lot of things as I'm going through it a little more. I haven't done cover to cover on the handbook or DM's guide yet, but like as I'm going through the core classes, I will keep calling out the organization and the layout is so much better.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that level 18 survivor has defy death, here is what this is. Heroic rally, here is what this is.
Yeah.
And in the 2014, it's just like a 3-sentence thing that you have to parse very closely to figure out what you do.
Right. Along with that, I think that's why Roll20 had such an emphasis on rebuilding the compendium and the way that you can view the rules in a browser. And so now all of that is also much more appealing to look at. It's easier to navigate. And it's just a more enjoyable experience because the way the compendium looked for 2014 was just really outdated. And I'm like, I don't want to read this.
I look at, I'm like using the paper books at the library where I was running a game, at the game stores. I'm like, wow, these actually, they almost look worse than they do online somehow. Because at line, at least there's a sidebar to navigate.
Right, that's true. And you can always just search up the specific term you're looking for, whereas in a book, you have to do it the old-fashioned way. So there will always be a place at the table for, like a quick Google search. And, we have the free basic rules. So even if you don't buy the books on Roll20, there's still things that you can see and use in your games. And so that just makes it even easier to find what you need.
Way to bring it back around and back home to Roll20. I love that.
Since I have to think about it all day, it just comes in to my mind.
Thank you for taking this chunk of time to talk about it and think about a couple other things as well with me.
Thank you for having me. This was such a blast.
It has been a delight. Brooke, where can people find you or where would you like to direct people to on the internet to learn more about anything that we've talked about today? And we will have all of these links in show notes as well, but we're going to say them out loud.
Yes, you can sign up and play for free on Roll20 at roll20.net. And you can also find us at Roll20 app on all of the social platforms you can think of aside from Mastodon. I don't think we're on there. But Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Roll20 or Roll20 app, you will find us. And me personally, I don't really use social media, which maybe is ironic.
I imagine
because
if
that's
it's
my
your
job.
No, that makes sense. If it's your job, you're like, God, no, I can't possibly handle taking pictures of my food and posting it now.
Right, I just take pictures of my food so I can look back on it and be like, wow, that was amazing ramen.
When
and it's
really
just for
good
me.
Meals. Yep.
But I am Behold Brooke in some places if you'd like to find me, and Roll20 app everywhere else. And be sure to join our Discord server. It's a great place to find games and also ask questions about Roll20. There's tons of community members in there who are always happy to help. And honestly, they're around the clock. Like, I'll see them answering questions at 10 p.m. and I'm like tucked into bed at that point. And you are doing the work out there that needs to be done.
Someone's in Japan and is answering the questions at like 4 a.m. our time too. And you're like, Great. Glad that's not me.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Brooke, thank you so much. It has been such a delight and a pleasure to have you on the show. What a joy. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you.
And listeners, do all the things. Go check out Roll20. It's amazing. Check out their Discord integration. Roll Report is going to do some sort of streamed or recorded or something using that in the new year. It is definitely on our calendar and radar. And you can find us on Instagram and Blue Sky. We are on Blue Sky now, and TikTok at the Roll Report Cast. Yeah, join us on Blue Sky. It's really cool. And if you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show, check us out on patreon.com/The Roll Report. For as little as $1 a month, you can help bring more exciting, wonderful guests onto the show. I got to figure out a better way to like do that as an outro and still thank you again for your time. Brooke, delightful, utterly delightful. I am so happy to get to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Farewell, rollers, until next time.